Hey YouTube, Untamed here. So I firmly believe that it will be wisest to wait until 2025 to buy your next vehicle. Whether it's new or used, I think that there are several reasons and indicators that would show that you would be getting a much better deal if you just hold off a few more months. In today's video, I'll walk through all the specific reasons, the stats, facts, and figures that really paint a clear picture of why it is best to be patient. So stick with me as we talk through it all, and I'll wrap up this video with what are the exact steps I believe you should take come time to actually engage with that dealership, right? Whether you're buying new or used, what are those steps that you should take to maximize the best deal possible? And perhaps the clearest indicator would be inventory levels. Currently within the US, we are seeing 2.84 million new vehicles available right now. This time last year, it was 2.21 million, and this time back in 2022, 1.34 million. So we've already seen a 1.5 million growth over the last 2 years, and that's going to continue to be a compounding issue for dealerships, right? They have to move that inventory. They have that little thing called a flooring plan or flooring cost. Each month, they're paying an interest rate on the vehicles that they have on their dealership lot. And that becomes a huge pain point for dealerships when they have a massive amount of new vehicles just sitting, collecting dust month to month. So they'll really have no choice but to slash the prices to where they're actually taking a loss on the vehicle and give you an excellent incentivized interest rate. They'll have no choice. Another part of the equation is repossessions, right? We need to talk through that. There's been a 23% increase in repossessions throughout the US just within the last few months. That is already adding on to the compounding terrible rate of repossessions that have taken place over the last 2 years. So that is a very important part of the equation because that has an influx of the used vehicle market, right? Banks are taking back these vehicles, forcing that used vehicle market to become oversaturated, just like what we're seeing from the new vehicle market. And well, once upon a time, you used to be able to go buy a lightly used vehicle and get a tremendous discount comparative to a new vehicle, right? We're getting back to those days. You're going to be able to buy a lightly used vehicle and get a tremendous discount, I assure you. And whether you want to believe it or not, those repossession rates also add to your favor if you are currently in the market for a new or used vehicle, because banks are clamping down because of it. They are seeing that people are failing to make their payments and they're just clamping down. Like I mentioned in a previous video, over the last 2 months, 1 out of 5 new vehicle loans were denied by banking institutions. 1 out of 5. 20% of all loans being applied for right now for auto loans are being denied. What does that say? That means banks are no longer just going to issue out loans like they're candy to people, right? And that's good because that forces dealerships to drop the prices even more, because if the deal is more appropriate, the bank will actually offer that loan to you, right? They're not going to issue an inflated loan on an inflated vehicle with a protection package, extended warranty, all these additional fees added onto it if it doesn't make sense. So they've clamped down, and that adds to your benefit. And right now, interest rates are garbage, and they have been for a while, so that's no shock to anybody. Historically speaking, though, immediately following an election, the following few months, we do generally see a dip in interest rates across the board, to include for auto loans, of course. So that is something perhaps we can cross our fingers for, because at least historically speaking, it does offer a little bit of relief. And well, regardless of the interest rates across the board right now, according to the Fed, you are able to get incentivized interest rates, and you should absolutely expect that right now. Over the last year and a half, you were maybe to expect one or the other, a huge discount or an incentivized interest rate of like 0% over 72 months as probably the best offering. But now you can expect both. Maybe $10,000, $15,000 off of that new vehicle, depending on what it is, of course, and a 0% interest rate or a 1.9% interest rate. So expect both right now. It blows my mind because right now we're seeing dealerships actually turn away vehicle allocations. They're turning away vehicles because they don't want to just have it sit on their dealership lot. We see it with the Toyota Tundra, we see it with the Toyota Tacoma, we see it across the board, not just Toyota, right? But because of that, it's actually slowing production need, right? So it's slowing that need for production, which is ultimately leading to cutting workers, right? Cutting production line workers, which nobody wants to see that. I don't want to see that. But that's our reality that we're in right now because inventory levels have gone through the roof. So right now will be a very clear indicator of what dealerships truly want to stay in business, because they're going to be the ones willing to take a loss. They're the ones willing to slash the prices, give that incentivized interest rate, and actually try to build those relationships, rebuild those relationships, and rebuild that rapport with loyal customers, right? The rapport that they, unfortunately, were quick to throw away during the pandemic because, well, your loyalty to the dealership no longer mattered. It became more about the mighty dollar, and greed got in the way for so many dealerships, right? They wanted to charge you a markup. They wanted to sell you an inflated protection plan, and well, they just took advantage of that situation, and now they're paying for it, unfortunately. For those of you who don't know or haven't followed my channel too much, I actually had an auto brokerage service that I offered nationwide where I would actually maximize and find deals for folks and then connect you to the dealership, right? I would negotiate the deal and then connect you. And I did that hundreds of times and it was really, really good. But man, it was stressful for me because it was a lot of work and I'm the type of person I never wanted to let you guys down. So I put a lot into that. So it was a little stressful for me, admittedly, but I say that because I do have a lot of experience negotiating deals with dealerships, right? And these few steps here, I do firmly believe if you follow them, you will get an excellent deal on your next vehicle purchase, I assure you. So stick with me. So if you're willing to invest a couple hours in this entire journey, I assure you, you're gonna save thousands of dollars on your next vehicle purchase, okay? So step number one, start your search far away. And what I mean by that is, look maybe even in your neighboring states, 1 or 2 states away, call those dealerships. So for this example, let's pretend you're trying to buy a brand new Toyota 4Runner, TRD Pro, or Trail Hunter, just for example, right? Start your search a couple states away. Call those Toyota dealerships and say, hey, I see you have a 4Runner TRD Pro in your lot. What's the best deal we could work for it? And see what number they give you, right? And get that number in writing. So you get that number in writing from that dealership. Same can be done for a trade-in, although trickier. So what I suggest is maybe taking a dozen or more photos of your trade-in, make them detailed photos, interior and exterior, and say, hey, unfortunately, I can't just pop in and show you it, but I assure you it's in this condition, here's the mileage, here's the VIN number, and here's a bunch of photos of it. Can you give me your best trade-in value? And then get it in writing. So that's step number one. Get all of it in writing, start far away, and then start calling dealerships a little bit closer to you. Work your way closer to your local dealership. Continuously call dealerships and say, hey, here's the deal that I was offered from this dealership. Are you willing to beat it, and by how much? And I assure you, from my experience, they always at very least match it, but generally speaking, they'll try to beat it by $500 or $1,000 just to earn your business. And if you keep doing that and keep working your way closer to your local dealership, I'm talking maybe a dozen or more phone calls, you will ultimately get to an excellent deal in your backyard. And in all my years of buying and selling vehicles, I have never worked a deal sitting inside the dealership, right? Don't walk into the dealership and try to work the deal. That never really ends in your favor, generally speaking. Sometimes it can, don't get me wrong, but very rarely, I would suggest. So don't go into the dealership, work it over the phone, get to the numbers that you feel good about, and then go to the dealership, right? Maybe come to an agreement on the phone, and then when you get to the dealership, you can maybe negotiate just a little bit more before you sign on the dotted line. That's what I always recommend. Once you're sitting in their dealership, they have you, right? And they feel like they have you, and they'll wear you down. They'll say, hey, well, let me go talk to my manager. I'll be right back. And they'll take 15 minutes and kind of stress you out and say, hey, well, here's the best numbers. And they'll slide over a piece of paper to you, and it's not that good. It's not what you wanted, but because you'd been there back and forth for the last 3 hours, people often crumble. I'm like, okay, well, this is probably the best I'm gonna get. I'm gonna make the deal. So never go in there. Don't be within their clutch in the dealership. You are in the driver's seat when you're on the phone with them. And only when they give you a good deal over the phone and in writing, then you can go into that dealership. And when they ask you, are you financing or paying cash, I generally recommend say, hey, I'm still undecided on that. I'm more focused on getting the best deal possible. Respond like that. And that has always worked in my benefit because you don't want to show that card. That's kind of a final card for you to show at the end of the deal. So pretend you were planning to finance all along. That is a negotiating chip. Pretend you get down to, you talk a $60,000 vehicle down to $50,000. At the very end, you're like, well, I'll be willing to make the deal with you. I'll be willing to finance it through your dealership if you're willing to make it $48,000 even. Because generally speaking, that dealership will get a little bit of a kickback, is what they refer to it as, a little bit of a credit if you finance through the dealership or through one of their preferred lenders. Assuming it's a good rate, of course. Don't just succumb to a terrible interest rate. But if it's a good rate in alignment with your current credit, I recommend doing that as a final card to play. And generally speaking, they'll do it because they are going to get a kickback. And if it means making the deal happen, it makes sense. And be sure to not fall victim to inflated protection plans and extended warranties. That's where the dealership can really make a lot of money. That finance department can make a ton of money doing that. And man, they've gotten really good at it. Having bought so many vehicles over the years, when you get in it, it's always hit or miss the type of finance representative you're going to get. When you sit down there, they'll push the crud out of these protection plans, right? The windshield protection plan, the paint chip protection, whatever it is, right? They're going to be pushing it because they get a nice cushion kickback from those sales, right? So, and they're always a little frustrated when you don't buy them, but I never have purchased one, and I do not recommend that you buy one because you can generally pay pennies on the dollar compared to what they're trying to sell them to you for, right? You know, obviously for some vehicles in particular, probably maybe German vehicles as a prime example, it might behoove you to get an extended warranty on it, but I generally buy Toyotas, so I never fell victim to that myself, because they generally will inflate the price dramatically for you, right? You're gonna be paying way more. And if you are interested in buying one, just know that you can negotiate that price down probably by 70-80% in order to actually get the deal. They can cut that price. Say they want $2,000 right out of the get-go, I bet you can pay $500 for the same exact protection plan. And a final tip that I'll offer up, and this may seem like a no-brainer, but when we get so neck deep in these deals, we feel like we just need to pull the trigger, especially during COVID, right? Because if you didn't buy it today, well, it was gonna be sold tomorrow. Dealerships no longer have that luxury right now, right? Because they know if they don't sell that vehicle to you, there's a good chance that you'll drive up the road to the next dealership and get the same exact vehicle for the same price or a better deal. So my final piece of advice really is to always walk away. Always walk away. Even if you kind of got to a number that you feel is really good and you feel great about it, walk away. And I assure you, you'll still get a phone call back from that dealership that day or the next day trying to get you back into their seat so they can even give you an even better deal to make it happen. So I assure you, if you just walk away, you'll even get a better deal. All right, guys, we'll wrap up the video there. Hopefully some of you have found some benefit in this video, and I assure you, if you do end up following those steps, the purchasing steps, come next year, you are going to save thousands of dollars, as you should expect, okay? So hopefully this has been beneficial. If you find any value to this, I do respectfully request that you consider liking and subscribing. Your support means a lot, and it certainly doesn't go unnoticed. Until next time.